Hi everyone, I'm Yang. Welcome to Tea House, China Radio International's online video talk show. With the development of Sino-US trade cooperation, the contract manufacturing industry has been developing rapidly. How can you choose the right supplier in China? Mr. Han Shi, founder of a US-based management consulting firm, China Line, will join us to talk about the development of contract manufacturing industry in China in this edition of Tea House. First, let's take a look at a brief video to learn more about Han Shi.
As an international management consultant, Mr. Han has advised leading US-based multinational corporations, including Bausch & Lomb, Eastman Kodak, Spectrum Brands and Illinois Toolworks, on their China alliances and acquisitions. These include contract manufacturing relationships that deliver cost savings in millions of dollars and equity investments with groundbreaking structures for market entry and consolidation. He was formerly a lecturer and research fellow at Peking University's Department of World Economy and Center of Soviet and Eastern European Studies, and a research fellow at the J.F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. His research regarding international management and transitional economics is funded by the Ford Foundation, the U.S. Department of Education, and the Foundation for Transcultural Studies of Japan.
Hi, Mr. Han Shi. Welcome to Tea House.
Thank you for having me.
I prepared some Chinese tea for you.
It's very nice of you.
After the financial crisis, how well has the economic situation recovered over the past few years?
I was in Chicago and Detroit last month. I saw some lively signs on the streets and people buying stuff, including their next house, perhaps making, let's say, the real estate market come back. But it was a rather slow process of recovery for sure. With respect to China, we did see the drop of purchase orders after 2008, but much of that has been recovered, I would say. And we've even seen some of these new interest in Chinese products such as lighting. By and large, the US economy and society as a whole remains to be progressive, and people's quality of life continues to improve, actually.
What kind of US companies are looking for suppliers in China?
Many, if not most, products are already made in China. It will continue to be so, even though the government's advocation that manufacturing should be brought back. But if we look at some of the general machinery, the medium-level technology products, things that can be taken apart and modularized, these are pretty much still made in China, and I'll see that these kinds of trend will remain.
You are an expert on Sino-US trade in automobile industry. What do you think is the main reason that US companies outsource their business in China, not Mexico or some other neighboring countries?
Cost is certainly a factor. It's still, let's say, China's per capita income is much lower than in the developed world, also lower than in Mexico. But the standardization of automotive components, for example, is a big factor.
As we know that at the very beginning, the US companies established a company in China to manufacture some products and components and to make it a whole product and to sell it back to the US market. And gradually with the development, they choose to manufacture in China or source out some in-house functions in China and then sell the product in Chinese market. What do you think are the reason behind the scene?
China was not the first choice at the time. I'm talking about let's say the mid-90s and so on. And then, when you get in touch with the actual manufacturers, some of them actually stand out in terms of their attentiveness to customers, their willingness to accommodate customers' requirements, and some basic infrastructure that's already in place. So they became a more impressive candidate. And after some test production went through, then some companies may just decided to give a larger order to this supplier, making this phenomenon of made in China actually happen. So I think it's pretty much market-driven transactions.
With the development of China's market-oriented economy, and how do you think the relationship between the buyers from the US and the suppliers in China changed?
The more market-driven activities we see, the more entrepreneurial or attentive these Chinese suppliers will become. This trend continues, so that a manufacturer in China will not only be able to do well business domestically, but also with international companies and serve their needs more attentively.
Well, Mr. Han, thank you for your insights. It's tea time. How about we have a nice cup of Chinese tea and then talk about business opportunities in China?
I'd like that.
Tea House truly is a communication for a better world and ideas worth sharing.
A communication for better world, ideas worth sharing.
Be a bridge between China and outside world.
Communications for a better world, ideas worth sharing.
Well, Mr. Han, welcome back to Tea House.
Thank you.
What are the competitive advantages of Chinese suppliers?
Well, the Chinese suppliers have been rather competitive, undercutting a lot of their competitors in terms of pricing. But if you look closely in industries, not only those of the labor-intensive kind, but also, let's say, in general machinery groups of industries, then you would see that these privately owned enterprises, usually headed by a fatherly figure in a private family, can be rather Chinese in their interaction with the rest of the world. What I'm saying is that China is a country where a hierarchy has been in place for many years, and subordinates within the hierarchy were taught to be, let's say, attentive or being respectable to their superiors. I think a lot of these Chinese private businessmen have turned that sort of respect for administrative superiors to a respect or attentiveness toward the customers.
How about the Japanese suppliers? I think this country also has a long history of respect to the higher level of the people.
Yeah, that's where it all started, actually. The US company named Nike came up with an idea about sports shoes. They didn't send the purchase order to China at the time. It was 1960. Japan was the country at the time that took the order. But nowadays, the Japanese companies themselves are rather competitive as brand owners, and they have world-class electronics. Instead of taking orders from other developed countries, they are sending out orders to the rest of the world.
And besides what you mentioned just now, what other valuable aspects can Chinese suppliers provide?
I think it's the Chinese suppliers can do a better job, let's say, standardizing their process and think more along, let's say, automation and optimization of the manufacturing process.
Based on your experience in the contract manufacturing industry over the past 20 years, what is different in this industry after China's entry into WTO?
Well, I think the WTO negotiation, it's like the drama between the US and Chinese government and back and forth and so on, that we're like really free advertising for the Chinese manufacturing industry, in the sense that before that debate and public drama, that many US companies had little idea of how China's like and what they can do. But despite the, let's say, the US government policy of keeping manufacturing within the US, the debate and the actual approval, actual admission of China into the WTO gave the US companies a much better chance of understanding what's going on in that part of the world.
Well, Mr. Han, thank you for your insights. It's tea time. How about we have another cup of Chinese tea and then talk about how can the international buyers find the right suppliers in China?
Why not?
Tea House truly is a communication for a better world and ideas worth sharing.
A communication for better world, ideas worth sharing.
Be a bridge between China and outside world.
Communications for a better world, ideas worth sharing.
Well, Mr. Han, welcome back to Tea House.
Nice to be back.
Do you like the tea?
Very much so.
Well, when you are helping your clients to find qualified Chinese suppliers, what are the key factors that influence the US company's decision?
Look at the, let's say, the cost factor for sure. You need to assess the manufacturing cost of a particular manufacturer, based on its location, distance from the port, the suppliers, raw material supplies, and so on. But all things equal, you would want to work with a company that is paying enough attention to you as a customer. Let's say we once had a candidate supplier that's pretty big and has a few large companies on their customer list.
Do you have any suggestions for the international buyers?
Yeah, I think they would certainly need to make this so-called make or buy decision. It's what to keep in-house and what to outsource. And they need also to think through in regards to the nature of the products that needs to be purchased from overseas, to see if this is something rather peripheral, functional products, or something that's, say, more critical, either a component or finished product for the company, and also the purchase volume of that product and how frequent you need to fill the order over the year. And those factors will decide, it will help decide on which kind of sourcing structure that you will use.
Then what are your suggestions for the Chinese manufacturers?
Customer orientation is on top of my list, because you can be rather attentive to your customers, but you only think as yourself, not about what your customers are really alike. In many cases, they are different from you, with a different set of, let's say, criteria for a business, and you need to understand that, and that's the way of getting to know the customer and coming up with some new stuff that meets their needs.
Then what is the trend of contract manufacturing industry in China?
We've seen the, let's say, some textile, shoemaking, labor-intensive industry moving to either Vietnam or Southeast Asia. But I think what will really matter for China as a manufacturing powerhouse is still its, let's say, medium-level technology products with standardized characteristics, many of which can be modularized, set apart and shipped to far ends of the world. So in that sense, the made in China phenomenon is far from being ended, in my opinion.
Okay, Mr. Han, thank you so much for joining our program. Please enjoy more tea.
Thank you.